Hi guys, welcome back to another monthly wrap up. This month was May, I believe. Yes, it was. I'm not sure how many books I read this month. I've literally just ran around my house and just found them all and pulled them out of where they were living. This month I just feel has been chaotic, a chaotic reading month, honestly. I don't really know why. I think I did like a lot of these books I read for videos, and then a lot of them I kept reading books and not wanting to finish them, and it was just a whole mess. I'm gonna start off with non-fiction because I don't know if that's the first books I read this month. I honestly can't remember, but it's probably the first video you saw me reading non-fiction for a week. Started off with I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I absolutely loved this book. I loved learning about Jeanette's life and just how she grew up, and it was just such I really can't get the words to explain because I'm stupid. Not gonna rate any of the non-fiction books as well because there are people's lives, there are people's stories. I don't really feel right to rate them, do you know what I mean? But I do recommend you read this book. It is really good and I'm so glad I read it. It talks a lot about her relationship with her mum, obviously, and how that was a very toxic relationship, and it took her a very long time to understand that, and even in recent years she can't fully grasp it. Yeah, I just thought it was so insane to read about the girl that I was watching on television's actual life and how bad it was, really, and how much she was going through. Next one to You Are Not Alone. This is also a very good book, and I do also recommend anyone to read it. It is a book about grief. It's by Carrie Ann Lloyd, who also has a grief podcast called Griefcast, and she decided to write a book as well. For someone that's been through grief or is currently going through grief, this book will just really hit home. It doesn't make you feel sad, it just makes you feel comforted and just understood, really. Like, it kind of encapsulates all your feelings and makes you feel valid, and it's just such a comfort book. Like, I just felt so comforted and at home when I read it. Like, I felt like I could breathe, you know. She talks a lot about her dad dying when she was a teenager and how it still affects her in her life now as an adult woman, and all the grief she went through and how she didn't know how to handle it and how grief is different for everyone. It's just such a good book. Please go and read it. The last non-fiction I have is Everything I Know About Love. So in my video I got about over halfway through, and I've just been dipping in and out of it since. I haven't actually completed it, so I've nearly completed it, but not fully completed it, so I don't know if it should be in this monthly wrap up, but I'm putting it in anyway. I found this book really interesting. I loved hearing about Dolly Alden's life and her growing up and her teenage years and how she felt about everything. I found her stories really fun and just easy to read, but I just didn't relate to the book at all. I didn't relate to Dolly's life, I didn't relate to her mindset or anything that she was going through, really. Yeah, and then she grew up in the 90s and I think she was quite wealthy. It was just very different growing ups, I feel like, and I couldn't relate to her mindset, or I couldn't really understand it, but I did find the story still fun and interesting. It just wasn't very much for me. Now I'm on to the romance books I read this month. I only read 2. The first one being Things We Never Got Over. If you watched my vlog of me reading this, you just know how I felt about it, because it was just such an all over the place mess that I just couldn't grasp. I had no connection to the relationship in this book or the characters. I felt like everyone was just 40-year-old adults acting like 12-year-olds. I was just so confused the entire time. It was fun, it was interesting and fun, but I just didn't like anyone in it. It's just such a mess from beginning to end. I can't even remember how it starts. She goes to a small town, to try and find her twin sister, because her twin sister's asked her to meet there, and she gets to this cafe and it's like her face all over the walls and she's been banned, and someone tries to kick her out and she's realised her sister set her up, and it's just like a hot, confusing mess. Like, I'm just like the whole time like, what is going on now? There's always stuff happening to the point where you don't get a connection with the characters at all. The guy that tries to chuck her out of the cafe actually ends up being a love interest, and then her stepsister, her twin sister, leaves her kid with her, so she's got to look after her kid. I like the kid to a certain extent. Like, she was by far the most likeable character in the book. Also, another thing to pick at, why on earth did everyone keep swearing at the child? This book was, I can't remember what I rated it. I think I rated it 3 stars, but looking back, probably a 2.5. Because it was fun, but it just wasn't good. Next book we have is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I was so excited when this book came out, and I don't even know why, because fun fact, I have not read an Emily Henry book yet. I really enjoyed this book. I wasn't sure what to expect because I've obviously never read Emily Henry before. And to be honest, I just saw that this had a beautiful cover and that people were loving it on TikTok. I didn't actually know what it was about. I didn't even read this when I bought it. I just picked it up and took it. I paid for it, obviously, but I was pleasantly surprised. I really liked the couple in this book. I really liked the friendships. I just felt that this book did a very good job of connecting you with the characters, and the setting was so pretty, and I just felt like relaxed reading this. I wasn't stressed. I just felt relaxed because I kind of knew it's basically about 2 exes that haven't told any of their friends they've broken up, and their friends have invited both of them onto like a vacation that they go to every year, and they're like hiding the whole time that they've broken up because they haven't told anyone yet. And it's just that kind of like, you know, they're gonna end up together because you just feel it. Like, you feel their connection, you know they're gonna end up together. There's no need to worry. You're just watching it play out. And it was so sad at times, like when you also get like what's happening now and what happened then. And I love the way that her past is called Happy Place and then the present is called Real Life. That got to me, honestly. That really got to me. This book a 4 stars. Not quite a 5 because it didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but I did just really enjoy it, and it was a really good, well-written book. So I definitely recommend you to read that. So I only read 1 thriller this month. And that was The Housemaid, which I have since given to my mum, and this is how she treats her books. So even though I've literally told her multiple times, please treat my books nice, she does not. I really enjoyed The Housemaid. I also read this in a vlog. I might have given it a 5 stars, but I think I'd probably put it down to a 4.5. Really good, loved it, could not put it down, literally was just reading. Took it to work with me, like I could not wait to finish it. And yeah, it was a really good book, kept me, like it was just such an easy read, like everything was just easy for me to contain and read. Like I figured out the main plot twist like near the beginning, like very early on, so I feel like that was kind of like, there wasn't really a big plot twist at the end that I could enjoy. It was kind of just like, this is what happens, this is how it happened. And I feel like everyone else is going to figure out the plot twist quite early on in the book as well, because I don't think it's that hard of a plot twist to figure out. But yeah, it's about a girl who has recently been in prison and she is out looking for a job. And she can't get a job, but then she goes for this housemaid interview and the woman seems really nice and lovely, and then she rings her back, says, yeah, you've got the job, welcome to our home. And it's like a live-in housemaid. She gets there, the woman's really nice, and then sets her up into this like weird attic bedroom. It's like, you live in this fancy house, why am I in here? And she's got a husband and a kid, and like as the days go on, like the wife seems weird, like she's starting to be skittish, confidential, that's not a word, like a bit more contradicting, that's the word. Like she'll tell her to do something and then be like, no, I didn't tell you to do that. So yeah, it's kind of like her story, what's really going on. But yeah, it keeps you groped. If you want something that you can read in less than a day, pick this up, because you won't be able to put it down. Next we're on to fantasy. I know, I read 5 fantasy books this month. 5! I'm really in my fantasy era, and I'm gonna be reading more this month because I've literally got 2 fantasy series on their way to me as we speak. So the first series I read, the Folk of Air series, or the Cruel Prince series, whatever you like to call it. I love this series so badly. Like I still cannot stop thinking about it. Like I loved it so much. I think I gave this one a 4.5, 4.75, and then a Queen of Nothing a 5-star. I feel like it went up in that order. I'm basically just going to tell you about the Cruel Prince because it's very difficult to explain the next 2 books without spoiling the first book. Do you know what I mean? So our story starts off with Jude, who we find out was taken from the mortal world when she was young into the fae world, or fairy world, or whatever the actual name for it is, because her older sister Vivian was actually not the child of her father. I'm getting my words confused. She was a fairy man's child, and he came to take her and then killed her parents and took Vivian, Jude, and Jude's twin sister Taryn all back to the fairy world and raised them as his own. Vivian always wants to go back to the mortal world. That's like always what she wants. And Jude is very strong. She wants to be a knight. And Taryn, I don't even want to talk about her because she is practically irrelevant. She's not, but I wish she was, you know? And basically Jude kind of gets bullied almost by the royal family in school. There's like a king and he has loads of children, literally loads. I don't know how many children there was, but there was loads. And they all have like a little group and they all think they're big and bad, and they bully Jude because she wants to be a knight. She wants to be a knight, and she's very strong-minded and she won't back down. And Prince Carden is one of those people, and he bullies her relentlessly and is a horrible, horrible person. But keep in mind, Prince Carden is the male main character of this series, so do with that what you will. This book is YA and it's mainly politics, but I really enjoyed the politics in this. I thought it was very easy to understand, and just like nothing was too confusing. At the start I was a little bit confused, but I feel like you always are when you get into fantasy. But for the rest of it, I was never confused. It always made sense to me, and I enjoyed like being in Jude's head and like slowly understanding what she was planning, like as she revealed it bit by bit. Like that was fun. And also I loved Jude's character, such a badass character that I didn't want to stop reading about her. Like I loved her character so much. Like I was so, as soon as I read about Jude, like I was so sick of reading about female characters that are just so lame. Like be more like Jude, please. Be more like Jude. I highly recommend to read these books if you're getting into fantasy, or even if you're in fantasy. These are just good books, but they're definitely very like beginner friendly for fantasy. I've only really read beginner friendly books so far. The next book I read was The Poppy War. Oh, I don't know why I'm saying next, because none of this is in order. It's all over the place, so ignore that. It's just all over the place. This book is really like nothing I've read before. It completely blew my mind that someone could actually have this much imagination to write a story like this. Like, it's so well thought out. The world building is like so well done. Like, everything in this book is so well done. Follows the main character Rin in, basically she's like a peasant girl from a little town, and she's about to be sold off to marry some man, and she doesn't want to, and there is this test that basically anyone can take, and it's this super hard test that like she goes on for like 12 hours, and it puts you into like different training academies, and she wants to get into the best one so she can get out of being married to some random man. So she studies like crazy for it, and she takes the test, and she gets into Sinigard Academy, which is the best one because she scores literally the highest out of her region or whatever. She just follows her story from there. And what happens in this one book, I generally thought I was reading about 3 books in one. I thought, have I just like read the whole series in this one book? Because that's what it feels like, honestly. Like, how is this how is there more to this? I feel like I read so many books in one book. This part of the book, we had her trying to get into the academy and train and studying for the exam. In this part of the book, we had her at the academy trying to stay in the academy and go on to the next year. In this part of the book, we had her staying at the academy for the next year, and then we had some like whole other crazy war, which I could honestly just not wrap my head around. I really enjoyed the first half of the book, and then the second half I still enjoyed and I thought was really well done, but I think it was just a bit too much for me. It started getting very dark and gory and graphic, and it was like, I just felt like it was a bit too hard hitting, like a bit too dark. But I still think this was a really good book. I don't know if I'll continue on with the series because I am interested in what happens to Rin's character the city of Nicara. I just don't know if I can do that half of the book again, because honestly that was really like, oh, this isn't fun fantasy anymore. I'm scared. But I still give this book like a 4 stars, I think. Probably go with 4 stars because it's such a brilliant book, just not a bit scary for me, you know. The last book we have, and probably my favourite, is The Ballad of Never After. I finally read it this month. I read the first one last month. If I recommend something to you right now, you better take my recommendation. If you have not read these books, do not read them until the 3rd one comes out. Don't read it. I don't want you to suffer like I did, please. I was left on a cliffhanger by the last one, and I was like, okay, it's fine. I'll just order the next one in, read it, it would be fine. Why did I not think in my stupid little brain, if that one ended on a cliffhanger, the second one probably will too? It did. It ended on an even worse cliffhanger. Like, so much worse. Like where I was literally so angry. Like, why have you done this to me now? I've got to wait till October for the 3rd one. I was like, I didn't know the release date, and then I was looking it up and I was like, if it's like August, that'll be fine. Like July, August, it'll be fine. I just have to wait a few more months. And I was like, October, really? That's like the end of the year. But yeah, this book carries on from literally carries straight on, like barely miss a day from the last book. It is about Evangeline and Jax, and it follows more into their journey of opening the Valerie Arch. You discover more about Evangeline and Jax and everyone else in the book, and like the more things at play. It makes no sense for me to explain this if you haven't read the first book. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. But just read them. You don't need explaining. Just read them. They're brilliant. They are brilliant, brilliant books. Don't read them until October though. I don't want you to do that to yourself, please. Oh yeah, this was also 5 stars. Did I forget to mention? 5 stars. This was my only 5-star books this month. No, it wasn't. So Queen of Nothing and The Virgin of After are my 5 stars read this month. I read 10 books this month. Not too bad, because I have been quite busy as well. I'm hoping, I say this every month, I'm hoping to read more this month, and then I don't. Because now I've got like pressure on myself to read more. I've literally put pressure on myself at the start of the month to say, gotta read more this month. I'm just gonna see how it goes, you know what I mean? Quality over quantity. And I think I'm starting to learn that now, because I'm getting broker, so I only really want to buy the books I really want to read, you know? So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.